Okay guys, we're over in Knottingley in West Yorkshire right now, and we are viewing this 3-bed semi-detached property, and we need to decide if we're going to rent it, flip in it, live in it, or avoid it. Let's jump straight in and show you the property. Whew. So, as you can see, straight away with this property, it's actually decent, but it's kind of deceptive with this type of property. So as you come in, big rooms, big high ceilings, and decent quality finish, and you can see it's kind of been rushed out of this property, whoever was living here, which was a tenant up to about a month ago. And it's decent. There's not a lot to say. When I say deceptive with these properties and why we get a bit like, oh, is everything initially looks really like, do you know what, this is ready to move in. And considering there was a tenant, you'd think so, right? But actually when you look at the carpet, it's a bit rough. Again, you'll see me sort of when I'm walking around properties. I know you can't feel it when you're watching this, but you can feel there is underlay. Is it the highest quality? No. But loads of little things like this. Might seem like small bits like that. As you come up here, the screws in there, but every single thing like that means taking it out if you're not going to do anything with it, filling it, sanding it, repainting it. And often the more of that there is, the more you're actually going to have to do. Loads of bits like this wallpaper down the edge, etc. as we're going through. The lighting, and we'll get to this in a moment, actually looks really nice, but again, that can be really deceptive, because just because something's got a nice face doesn't mean it's got anything behind it, right? In this case, the electrics need to be actually looked at within these properties. As coming through, a couple of quite strange things, I think. So got a decent sized garden out there, and that is a massive plus in this area. And these couple of streets have got really decent sized gardens, but a lot of them actually it's really small. That's going to add quite a lot if you think a family with kids and things like that. This is kind of strange. Little things like that. I'm just thinking, what was somebody thinking when they actually put that together? Just thought, yeah, you know what, a nice slider door. Not done properly, shocker. And then you come in here, similar sort of thing. So nice property in terms of the kitchen. If you look at it, it's like, actually it's quite nice. Is it, like, first of all, the fuck was going on there? But also little bits like this. It's a telltale sign where somebody's done something nice, like painted it. I do think the grey makes a big difference, but it's just not done very well. So it's not painted on the insides, it's not painted on the sides. Now the issue with that is when you actually start doing things. So if I were buying this, you can see maybe some of the skirtings where they painted the grey, it's gone over into the white, gonna have to repaint that. And the problem when you make good on a property and you start doing bits, other bits look shitter. So when there's little blemishes, like this is a good example, when you're going through this, it's like, it doesn't really matter, it's not that big of a deal. It's like, well, cool, you come in and sand that, but as soon as you do that, you notice bits like that more. And then when you fix that, you notice bits like that more. And then when you do that, you start looking at the other bits and you go, oh, the ceiling, actually, there's little bits of shadowing. No, wait, it's not shadowing. It's a bit of dampness come in, it's bits of this being exposed. And the more and more of that, you're kind of going, well, you're £1,000 here, you're £2,000 there, you're £5,000 here, and it all sort of mounts up. Now out here, it's kind of a bit of a random space. You can tell the tenant had a dog and have left some of the fluff in. Now these areas, I don't know what you'd call it, conservatory, is actually pretty good quality, so that is good and a positive. Now often what these are used as, they're not adding any value to the property all in all, but it does add to the appeal, believe it or not, of the property, because of being able to leave your boots in there, take them off at the door. It's freezing cold in here compared to in there, but what it is just an area where stuff gets dumped to sort of the transition from the outside to the in. Again, it's got a garage as well, which we'll go through outside in a moment, but let's jump upstairs so you can see what I mean about the consistency of quality and decent size rooms. So even the stairs are reasonable in this house, but ugh, stop. Shit like this, I hate. You come into this, and again, they've moved out quickly, kids' room, it happens, but you know, shit like this, that's gonna have to come away, get ripped off, get replastered or whatever it is. Actually, that's gonna come off easy, it's pretty smooth behind there. Repainting the room, coming back through, you can tell this was somebody's home, you know, little touches like this on the wall. There are several bits like that, but the sort of the adequacy of it, the finishing touches for me just really let this down. But as you come in here, again, consistent again. You can see somebody has actually cared for this, but the closer you look, the worse it gets. You can see bits like this. Quite common around radiators, by the way, because really ideally what would happen is you cap the radiator, take it off. It's actually a fairly simple job, believe it or not, but if you don't know, you don't know. And then you'd put on this or paint behind it. But what happens is this, you can see this little bit of glue. And I can only assume something tragic happened to the tenant when they bought this. If you just look up, it's like they've, if you're watching, I'm sorry for insulting you here, but it looks like you've got some old sheets, thrown them in some glue, done some weird shit to it and thought, you know what, that'll make a fucking lovely light shade. So my personal opinion is that would be the first thing to go in here, along with the pillows and other shit, okay? Sorry, I'm sorry. But what the fuck were you thinking? Let's go into the third bedroom, which again, as you come in here, shit in here, but considering this is the box room and maybe we can get a shot from the corner or something, but it's a good size room. They are all double rooms. It's not like those rooms where it's 3 doubles and one is a very questionable double. They're 3 double size rooms. They're really nice and they're just solid all the way around. And this is why I really like the resale market. When you buy new builds, if I went like that, I'd end up in the other bloody room, right? So the bathroom is, in my opinion, one of the most important rooms in the house, as well as the kitchen, which, following the same sort of flow as the kitchen, it's nice-ish. And what I mean by that is the layout is pretty spot on, I think. So the door doesn't open onto anything, it opens up. You've got the bath, the toilet and sink, and there's a space across the stairs, which you'll see in a moment, with the shower in. But again, it's like you go around it and you're like, do you know what, this is nice. And then you look the other way and it's like, no, it's not. Yeah, it's really nice. No, it's not. Oh, look, it's really nice. And it really depends on this property where you're looking and how hard you're looking. So it's a decent property, but you always need to be careful because something can look nice initially, but actually need quite a lot of work. Luckily for us, when we're looking around this, I think it is one of those tart-up situations rather than full refurbishment. So let's go through the numbers. This particular property came to us through a Facebook ad, through a direct to vendor. And what we find is a lot of vendors are coming to us because they want reliability. So whilst we're trying to add a lot of value to ourselves, obviously buying as investors, and our clients, which are also investors, we're looking to add value to our vendors as well, also our clients. So this particular property, they wanted 132,650. We had buying costs of around 5,800, including 1,200 in legals, 500 in brokers, and the rest in stamp duty. And then a lot of people would come in here and go, oh, a little spruce up, paint, carpets, a couple of grand. But if there's any sort of works to do, I always like factoring in £5,000 for the entire property. So I've also put in £5,000 refurbishment costs. What that means is an overall project cost, so all in, of 143,500 and £44,000 actual cash in the deal. So what does that mean from a rental perspective and the return on capital employed? So what that looks like is a gross rental income of £700 a month, and then once you take off the mortgage costs at 3.5%, which is the rough average interest rate, and all of the holding costs, we're going to be looking at a net monthly profit of £271, which is an annualized return of £3,250, give or take. Now, normally what we go for is a minimum of 8% return on capital, but this doesn't quite reach it. This actually hits 7.4% return on capital. But the reason I'd still sort of look at this is because of the area, which I'll go into in a moment. So the numbers look insane, but it's not all good with this property. Number one is deceptive properties. I've mentioned this a couple of times, but when something looks quite nice like this, you can forget all of these little bits when you're going around. Now that's a pretty obvious one, but all of those little crannies, nooks, damages, all of that. And then it's kind of like you can come away feeling quite emotional about a property. And so you're like, oh, wasn't that nice? Like, it's really warm in this property, the heating's still on, right? So it's like, oh, it's nice, it's warm, it's cozy, it's homely. And actually, this is a property investment. You need to be able to be objective with it. Likewise with these lights, you know, you look at this and you're like, do you know what, that's quite nice. The electrics must be fine, right? Well, no. Because until you've got an EICR certificate, an electrical certificate, you don't know what's going on behind there. And so it's something to be a bit more aware of. Not so much in the past, but definitely moving forward as people are taking it more seriously. Number 2 is it doesn't reach the minimum criteria, and normally I would disregard a property straight away. It's only 7.4% return on capital, not quite the 8%. Now, whilst there are some really positive attributes to that, you can't ignore the numbers. Number 3 is the visual eyesore. So again, you always want to be thinking about the end user of your property if you're going to be buying it, and that is what I'm talking about in the background there. Now, it is quite far back, that sort of, what is it, a factory of some kind. Is that going to impact the value in that? No, probably not at all. It definitely doesn't impact anything to do with the property. I just always think if you've got a tenant or somebody buying a property and you've got this exact property, which is going to be loads of, right, a few streets back where you can't see that, would you prefer to live there rather than here for the same price? More than likely. So whilst it's not having a dramatic impact, it really is that small sort of dampener on an otherwise pretty fantastic property. But it's not all bad. Here are 3 good things that I like about this property. Number 1 is the size of the bedrooms, and I talk about this in my videos quite a lot about the regularity of property, and this is as regular as you get. It's middle class suburbia, it's got a nice garden, it's a semi-detached 3-bed property, it's rectangular or square rooms, and the space is just there, and so the appeal is so broad. It's going to be for families, newlyweds, older couples, whatever it is, and so that appeal opening up means more demand if you're going to sell it on or rent out the property. It's as boring, vanilla, buy-to-let as you get. Number 2 is it's middle class suburbia, and what I mean by that is I just really like this area. Now, I did mention the downfall is the factory in the background, but otherwise it's just, you can see the house in the background. They're all semi-detached and they're nice ones as well. You know, since I've been sort of filming, I've seen a load of kids come back from school, family, stuff like that, and it is just your typical family area, kind of the aspirational lifestyle that people are looking for in blue collar and start of middle class society, if you like. And that's really great, because if this is the place where people aspire to be, people will spend more money in their rent and the purchase prices to make sure they're living here. And it's just an area that's very well designed, so there's going to be no development happening locally, which means more prices getting pushed up with the lack of supply of properties in the area. And third, despite being in this really weird part of it, it's got little things like a garage, and when I was looking up the street, it's one of the only properties that actually has a garage. Now, will that do much for the value? Yes, it increases it slightly, but not dramatically. Will it increase the rent? Yeah, maybe, but it does definitely increase the demand in the area for both a purchase, but mainly rentals as well, because ultimately you need to think of that end user. And if somebody's looking to rent, and again, they've got a property with a garage where they can store a car, a motorbike, their bikes, whatever it is, then it's definitely going to appeal more to them. And ultimately, it's not only about the money you'll achieve, it's how quickly you'll shift it, and things like this dramatically increase the demand in the property. So the question is, am I going to rent it, flip it, live in it, or avoid it? Well, you should learn by now, I really don't like avoiding property. So despite the fact it doesn't reach the return on capital, I love the area. I think it's got a lot of prospects, and I would be shocked if the purchase price of this property doesn't shoot up over the next 5 years. So definitely not going to avoid it. Am I going to live in it? You know what? Like, it's a bit outside of my area with everything that I've got going on, but if I were local to this and I had bits going on in this area, I'd happily live here, I think. I think it's very nice. I think it's quite middle class. I think a lot of families in the area, and personally I can see making this into a home fairly easily, but not for now. Again, with the amount of works that need doing, which is actually very little, there's little opportunity to actually add value. So it's not going to be a flip where I'm buying it, refurbishing it and selling it on, because it just wouldn't work, which leaves it down to a buy-to-let, and I personally would snap this property up. However, this one was offered to one of our clients before it was put in front of me. Otherwise, I genuinely would have bought it, and the rule that we have is if a client says yes, then we can't take over it. So there you go. So a client's buying this property, he's actually purchased it now, gonna get the works done and get a tenant in for them. So they're gonna get a staggering 7.4% on their return on capital employed, but more importantly, a really great home for somebody, which means great capital growth for the future. So there you have it. If you got value from this video, make sure to hit the like button and let me know what you thought of the property in the comments. If you want to find out more about property and investment in general, and you want a channel that's actually doing deals on a daily and weekly basis, then make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, and I'll see you in the next video.